It is your boy, the Grandmaster Troll, back at it again to give you the best officiating content YouTube has to offer. We gotta talk about this inadvertent whistle play. So with that said, I won't waste your time anymore. I won't waste your time any longer. Let's go look at the play. I'm gonna play the whole sequence, and then we're gonna talk about what happened.
You still want a timeout? It's a white ball. You still want a timeout? It's a white ball. He made a call and he said white.
Did you call travel?
You want a timeout, coach? Yep. Timeout white.
I'm saying it's part of the game. You can't stop the game because they run into you. True or false? The ref's part of the game.
He made a call that he feels is best for the game.
I'm asking about the rule. The ref's part of the game, is he not?
Yep.
Yeah, so technically you want me to get run over by him and then after that not make a call. And that's perfectly fine. But I didn't want to fall down on the ground myself, so I didn't do that.
Stop the play.
So I didn't do that. That's what I didn't do.
I'm not arguing.
I'm telling you exactly what's done. Yes,
Part of the game.
yes, I did go my whistle around. Yes, I did.
So what's the call?
Where's the ball back? Because I was in the way.
What's the call?
Interference. That's the best that I
You
can
understand that's not called?
I
Ref
understand,
interference
but
is not
you want me to
called.
break? You want me to fall down and break my leg over a game?
So it sounds like to me he blew his whistle inadvertently because he was in the way. He didn't want the players or himself to get hurt.
So you'd rather me break my leg? That's fine.
I didn't say that.
But you're saying I
I'm
should
saying
have
the
just.
rule is you play through, you don't call, you don't go to the whistle. You get or you get out the way. That's fine.
I know, but I tried to get out
LeBron
of the way.
smacked you in the mouth yesterday. Did he not?
And then they got called timeout after in discussion. And then get the guys.
After the play was
I'm not getting paid like NBA officials. So
I'm not getting paid like NBA coach.
They're not LeBron. I'm not gonna do that yet.
Okay, you guys saw the scenario play out. Now I'm going to try and narrate and break it down and see what the officials could have done better in this situation. With that said, let's go back to the top, beginning of the play. We're in the half court set. We can see right here, White has swooped in and stolen the ball. We hear a whistle and we see the kids behind the referee scream and yell and also do the traveling mechanic, but let's see what happens. So I'm waiting for Phil to give a mechanic as to what he has called or verbalize what he has called. And from what I can see from my perspective, which I have, is he just blew his whistle. The player 15 had the ball and he passes the ball back to Phil. Phil bends down and picks up the ball. We're still waiting for him to give a mechanic or make a call. Now I hear him say white ball. So whatever happened, it's white ball. I don't know why it's white ball, how it's white ball. Only thing I know is that it's white ball.
You still want a timeout? It's a white ball. You still want a timeout?
Now, at this point, I heard the coach say he thinks it's a travel, so he's thinking it's going to be his ball, and he's calling a timeout because he wants to draw up a play. Because we're under a minute left. Under a minute on the clock left to go in the game. He wants to draw up a play because we have a tight basketball game. So at this point, I'm not going to grant that coach a timeout when the other team is getting the ball and he thinks his team is getting the ball. So I got to slow down the coach and tell him it's not your ball, it's white ball. Are you sure you want to call a timeout? Because last thing I want to do is say timeout. Then after the timeout, we're giving the ball to White, and he's saying, hey, how is it white ball? How is it white ball? I want to clear up this confusion before I grant anybody a timeout. So we go back to the play.
It's white ball. He made a call and he said white.
So the coach, he thought it was a travel. He thought it was his ball. So I was right not granting him his timeout. Now we got to work through it right now.
Did you call travel?
So at this point, we still don't know. It's still unclear of what he had called because Phil didn't use his mechanic or his voice as to what the call is. So at this point, the coach is out of his coaching box. He shouldn't be out of his coaching box, but when you call something atypical and you don't verbalize what the specific call is, we have a mess being created, and I'm gonna give a chance for Phil to clean up his own mess that he created. Let's see what happens.
You want a timeout, coach? Yep.
So now the other team wants a timeout while Phil is cleaning up his mess. So I'm going to go ahead and grant White his timeout and let Phil clean up his mess. Now, one of the things that, that I should say our superiors won't like, we were at a camp, if this was an in-season game for a high school or an in-season game for college basketball, one thing we can't have is we can't have the coach outside of his coaching box. And right now, this coach is outside his coaching box. So when the coach is outside his coaching box and you have created a mess, you got to find a way to bring the coach back to his coaching box. We don't want to tell the coach to, get back in your coaching box. What we want to do is we want to walk him back to his coaching box. So at this point, as Phil is having this dialogue with the coach, he should be walking towards Blue's coaching box to get the coach back in his coaching box.
Come on, White.
So at this point, because I too want to know what the call is. I too want to know why it's white ball and why the clock was stopped. So I'm just going to stand close and listen and see what Phil is saying and see what the coach is saying to get a better understanding as to what happened.
I'm saying it's part of the game. You can't stop the game because they run into you. True or false? The ref's part of the game.
He made a call that he feels is best for the game.
I'm asking about the rules. The ref's part of the game, is he not?
Yep.
Yeah, so technically you want me to get run over by him and then after that not make a call. And that's perfectly fine. But I didn't want to call down on the ground myself, so I didn't do that.
Stop the play.
So I didn't do that. That's not
I'm not arguing. I'm not arguing.
I'm telling you exactly what it's done. Yes,
Part of the game, Marv.
Yes, I did.
So what's the call?
Read the call back. Because I was in the way.
What's the call?
Interference.
So at this point, the coach asked him what the call was, and then Phil responded with interference. So what Phil's got to do is he's got to get in his rule book, because when you're having these dialogue with these coaches, you want to use verbiage that's in the rule book. And the only time you're going to find interference in this rule book is when it comes to basket interference, or if a coach comes out of his coaching box and interferes with a play on the court. That's the only two times you're going to see interference. What happened in this situation was Phil thought he was going to get hurt by a player and get ran over, and he didn't want that to happen, so he blew his whistle. At that point, it seems like we have an inadvertent whistle. Whenever we have an inadvertent whistle, whoever had team control of the ball will get possession of the ball. And as we saw in this scenario, White 15 was dribbling the ball when the whistle was blown, and this is why White is getting the ball. But let's go back to this dialogue and see what happens.
That's the best that I can understand. That's not a call. The ref interference is not a call.
You want me to fall down and break my leg over an anything?
So it sounds like to me he blew his whistle inadvertently because he was in the way. He didn't want the players or himself to get hurt.
So at that point, Phil was kind of struggling to communicate what the call was, so I just used verbiage in the book and explained to him why Phil blew his whistle and why he's giving the ball back to White. I think it's pretty obvious that when the whistle was blown, White had team control, so I didn't feel that part needed to be explained. I didn't feel that part needed to be explained, but that's the call that Phil made. Let's finish it out right here.
So you'd rather me break my neck?
So at that point, we gave him the explanation. We got 56.3 on the clock. A timeout was given to White, and coach is going to use this timeout to not draw up a defensive scheme or any schemes with his players. He's going to have a dialogue about this inadvertent whistle.
I didn't say that.
But you're saying, I
I'm
should have
saying
just...
the rule is you play through, you don't call, you don't go to whistle. You just take you, or you get out the way. That's fine.
So the rule is the referee is a part of the court, and if the referee is in bounds and the ball hits them, well, the ball is the same as hitting the floor because the referee is on the court. If the referee is out of bounds and the ball or a player hits them, since the referee is out of bounds, whenever the ball or player touches them, they're in contact with the ball, they will be out of bounds. We all understand that rule, but unfortunately, he blew his whistle inadvertently, and this is the call we gotta make, and we gotta move on to the next play and continue the basketball game.
I know, but I'm not getting out of the way.
Smack you in the mouth yesterday.
And then they got called timeout after and discussion, and then get the guy.
After the play was
I'm not getting paid like NBA officials.
I'm not getting paid like NBA
I'm
coach.
staying on the front. I'm not gonna do that yet.
So now the timeout is over and play is about to restart. But before we restart play, I gotta give my boy Phil some pointers so this doesn't happen again. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go back to the play. Okay, we are looking at the play right here at the very start of it. 15 right here jumps the pass. And right now, our referee is flat-footed. When you officiate, especially as a trail, you don't want to be flat-footed. Another thing we got to do as officials, and one thing I want to see Phil work on as I pull up my basketball coverage, is I want him to bring his 3-person game to his 2-person game. Because as the trail, you see how the trail is on the court? One thing as trails we have to do is we have to work wide. And sometimes working wide, instead of standing on the court, you may have to stand on the out of bounds line. Sometimes you got to stand even wider on the out of bounds line. And sometimes you got to have your shoulders parallel with the sideline like you're the C. But instead of working the C like you're in 3-person, you could pretend like you're the C and have your shoulders parallel out of bounds, and this will give you a better chance to, one, work wide, and also give yourself a chance to have some extra space, some extra time so you could get out of the way. Because one thing we got to do as officials, we got to create time and space for ourselves. And the easiest way to do that is to referee outside in as opposed to inside out. But tell me what you think. Tell me what you thought about this video. If you got any other pointers, complaints, you could go to the game. You could timestamp them. And I could click on your timestamp and read your complaint or your comment about any specific play, and maybe I do a video on it. But y'all know who it is. It's your boy, the Grandmaster Troll. Peace.